Chicken Run 2 Dawn of the Nugget doesn't release for another 45 days. However, we have seen a little bit of news in regards to reviews coming out thanks to film festivals. Though I have yet to get around to properly going to a film festival, other people have, more official reviewers, and it's interesting to see some of the responses to this movie. Now, Chicken Run is a movie I kind of hold near and dear to my heart. It's very British, it was made in Bristol, but it also bloody well traumatized me as a kid. I was too scared to finish this movie, to be honest with you. And the fact that they're making a sequel, like 20 years later, is a bit of a shock. But there are some creative decisions in this sequel movie that I think are up for discussion. It might be a little early because I haven't actually seen the movie myself yet. Again, doesn't come out for another 45 days, but it might be worth thinking about. Now, this movie premiered at the 67th BFI London Film Festival on the 14th of October, so a full 2 months early, since this movie comes out on Netflix December 15th. The film also had a preview at the Annecy International Animation Film Festival on the 11th of June, way earlier on. However, the review responses have been kind of mixed. Yes, on Rotten Tomatoes it has a very solid 79%, but going down and actually reading the individual reviews, I'm seeing a slightly different message. Now, there was some controversy connected to the sequel of Chicken Run. For example, the voice of Ginger was quite unceremoniously replaced by someone else, to the point I think the voice actress didn't even realize she'd been replaced until she saw the news of the movie, which is very disheartening. Some people put it to ageism, but their replacement is just 5 years younger. It's a whole thing. There's also the more understandable controversy of Mel Gibson being replaced as Rocky, but from the sounds of things from the reviewers, who of course are going to have the original Chicken Run probably also quite near and dear to their heart, these voice changes seem to have a little bit of an impact. It's not a make or break of the movie, but apparently Zachary Levi as Rocky just doesn't hit the same for that classic soldiery vibe. Similarly, Ginger sounding different feels a little bit off. But though those are minor grievances that we can all get used to, yeah, some voices sound different, apparently from a technological perspective, this film looks great. Of course it does. The tech has gotten better for stop motion animation. It feels like a larger scale movie in just the visuals alone. However, the plotline, from what I've heard, is just uninspired. The original movie stands out so much for being so incredibly tense. There are dark jokes, there's a horrible premise, it really feels like a serious sort of thriller movie, especially when you consider how life works in the real world with chickens. And from what I can gather from the reviews here, the second plot feels like a very cheap copy and paste job. Someone even describing the intro sequence as seeming like it was written by AI, right down to the gags. There is apparently some dark jokes in there, similar to the vibe of Ginger knitting out a noose in the first movie. There's a drill going on behind me at the moment. Well, if you hear those mumbles, do your best to ignore it. However, the state of the animation industry and the writing processes of these movies, I guess, has changed over the years to be a lot more weak-fisted than it used to be. As we can see from the teaser trailer, it's very much the same plot again of trying to escape the lands for some sort of reason. It's also very much revealed that the villain of the second movie is the first movie's villain again. And though it's so nice to see these characters with a little bit more of an after story, and it's nice to see it redone in a fancy new technological lens, it sounds like the actual plot and the actual reason everything's going on feels very simplistic and basic. Just hopping off of redoing an IP for the sake of redoing an IP. And perhaps if you were to watch this movie in a vacuum without knowing your history of Aardman, without knowing the history of the first movie, it seems like this movie would very much stand out. There's still all sorts of elements of absurdism and British accents and our kind of style of humor. But in the context of it being a sequel, in the context of what's already been established in this world, this movie seems to be missing some key ingredients, as I can tell. Bringing a lot of the charm from the first movie, but not fully encapsulating it, and certainly not improving upon it. Now, this is all speculation, of course, since I'm just looking at reviews from a premiere that I was not at, but this is the kind of trend you see time and time again with sequels. Oftentimes, it's just there for the sake of it, not improving upon it like Shrek 2 did to Shrek 1, you know? Weird connection, I know, but you agree. There will of course be amazing attention to detail since this is stop motion animation, so every single frame practically gets 20 minutes of time dedicated to it alone. But the movie is demonstrably a little bit adjusted to more what is standard compared to its far more unique predecessor. One reviewer pointing out how the action more than holds up in the Marvel era, juggling several competing storylines and throwing in a surprise guest to keep things interesting. Which is fine, alright, maybe that's entertaining, sure, but it It feels like almost this sequel wasn't needed, and that it's been conformed to a format that maybe wasn't the original design. I was actually wondering for a minute there why such a unique stop-motion animated movie is getting a sequel, since Aardman's not exactly known for having the most successful movies of all time. But I mean, turns out I'm wrong. The original Chicken Run has remained the highest grossing stop-motion movie of all time. So maybe the fact this sequel's being made is entirely just because they're hopping on that. But in following very much on the trend of this is what was successful last time, it sounds like it might just be a pseudo-duplicate of that original movie with a new spin. They're trying to escape paradise because there's another human threat of some sort. It's likable, entertaining, but an incredibly simple plot with some significant cast changes. The general conclusion I'm getting from these reviewers is that though it might be halted from a perfect sequel due to the changes that have happened and maybe a little bit of the conformism to how the standards of industry go, it's still an excellent follow-up to the first movie that will be amazing to the fans if you like it on the surface level. But I'm reading this a little bit differently. The number may be high, but I'm seeing a lot of negative words associated with it. I think this might be a movie that is great on the surface, but the more you care about the original Chicken Run, the more you realize this is either too similar or completely different, depending on the lens you're looking at it, you know? Too similar that it's just mimicking the same plot again, not really expanding the franchise and making it good, and being so different for being so non-unique that the original movie was, that it just doesn't have the same staying power. It might be a lovely sequel, it might have fantastic box office responses, the average family might enjoy it for the Aardman classic elements of attention to detail, British accents, dark humor, and just absurdist comedy. But I also get the sense that maybe this sequel is unmemorable. It's just following up, and it won't be the perfect movie that the superfans would be interested in. I could be entirely wrong. I ain't seen the movie yet. I just wanted to talk about the fact that I saw these reviews and got a nagging feeling in the back of my head. It's getting slapped down onto Netflix in a little bit, and perhaps when looking back at this after a few more years, it'll just come off as just another crappy revival that adds as a miniature kind of stain on this classic British stop-motion animated movie. I don't know. But since we've got another 48 days to actually find out for ourselves, maybe I'll be positively surprised. But I'm going to be going into my front room to watch this on Netflix with a little bit of a precautionary mindset. What are your thoughts in advance on Chicken Run 2 Nugget of Dawn of the Nugget? Sure. Are they even going to show us a chicken nugget? I guess we'll find out. But hey, I'm glad that Bella Ramsey is the baby. Very much proud to see her succeeding. But anyway, that's all from me. There I go rambling about movies again. For now, my name's been Daz. I'd love to hear your opinions if you've got any about this movie in advance. You guys didn't really care, and I'll see you in a little bit.